Before I tell you about the moment I found the envelope that changed everything, you need to understand who I was before my son tried to erase me. You need to see the life I built, the home I cherished, and the family I thought I knew. My name is Thomas Barrett. I'm 67 years old, and until 4 years ago, I lived in the happiest marriage anyone could imagine. My wife, Eleanor, and I had been together for 41 years. We raised 2 children in a beautiful Victorian house on Beacon Hill in Boston, a house Eleanor inherited from her parents in 1965, the year we got married. That house wasn't just property. It was where we celebrated birthdays, where we hosted Thanksgiving dinners for 30 people, where Eleanor painted in the sunroom every Sunday morning. The garden she spent decades perfecting still blooms every spring, roses climbing the iron fence exactly how she wanted them. When Eleanor died of cancer in 2021, I thought I'd die too. But our daughter Lisa, a nurse at Massachusetts General, helped me through it. She'd come over twice a week, cook dinner, sit with me in the garden. She never asked for anything. She just wanted her father to be okay. My son Michael was different. He'd always been ambitious, maybe too ambitious. He started a real estate development company at 25, married a sharp-tongued lawyer named Vanessa 2 years later. They had the big house in Brookline, the expensive cars, the private school for their kids, but I noticed something over the years. Every family dinner, Michael would walk through my house, touching the crown molding, commenting on the property value. "Dad, do you know what this place is worth now? At least 3.8 million, maybe 4. I'd smile and change the subject. The house was never about money to me. After Eleanor died, Michael started visiting more often. At first, I thought, maybe he's finally realizing family matters. Maybe losing his mother made him appreciate his father. I was wrong. It started small. 6 months after the funeral, Michael suggested I update my estate plan. "Dad, you're 67. You need to think about the future," he said, sitting in my kitchen with Vanessa. She had her laptop out, already pulling up forms. "We should establish a power of attorney, just in case." "In case of what?" I asked. "In case something happens to you," Vanessa said smoothly. She was always smooth. It's standard. Michael and Lisa would share decision-making authority if you become incapacitated. "I'm not incapacitated. I'm healthy." "Of course you are," Michael said quickly. "This is just a precaution. Come on, Dad. Don't make this difficult." I didn't sign anything that day. But the seed of doubt had been planted not in me, but in them. They'd started counting my money before I was even sick. The first real red flag came 8 months later. Michael showed up unannounced on a Tuesday morning. I was in the garden, pruning Eleanor's roses, when I heard his voice behind me. "Dad, we need to talk about your memory." I turned around. He had that concerned face on, the one he used when he wanted something. "My memory is fine, Michael." "Is it?" "Because Lisa told me you forgot her birthday last month." That was a lie. Lisa's birthday is April 12th. I'd called her at 8 in the morning and taken her to dinner that night. But I saw what Michael was doing. He was building a case. "I didn't forget anything," I said firmly. Okay, he said. "Hands up. I just worry about you, living in this big house alone. Have you thought about downsizing? Vanessa and I could help you find a nice condo." "I'm not leaving this house." His jaw tightened. "Dad, be reasonable. The property taxes alone are $40,000 a year. You're retired. Your pension can't cover." "I can cover it just fine." Eleanor had left me comfortable. Not wealthy, but comfortable. I had my pension, some savings, and this house. That's all I needed. Michael left that day frustrated, but he didn't give up. 2 months later, he came back with Vanessa and a man in a suit. "Dad, this is Dr. Harrison. He's a neurologist. I've been worried about you, so I made you an appointment." He came here as a favor. I should have refused. I should have told them to get out. But they made it sound so reasonable, so caring, and a small part of me wondered, am I forgetting things? Am I getting old and not noticing? Dr. Harrison spent an hour asking me questions. "What year is it? Who's the president? Count backwards from 100 by sevens." I answered everything correctly. But then he asked me to recall 3 words he'd told me 15 minutes earlier, and I couldn't remember them. I'd been distracted by Michael pacing behind me. "Mr. Barrett," Dr. Harrison said gently, "I'm concerned about some early signs of cognitive decline. It's not severe, but at your age, we should monitor it closely." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means you should consider getting some help managing your affairs. Your son has your best interests at heart. I didn't know then that Dr. Harrison was a friend of Vanessa's from law school. I didn't know Michael had paid him $5,000 to deliver that diagnosis. I didn't find that out until much later, when it was almost too late. For the next month, Michael and Vanessa circled like sharks. They brought over more paperwork. They scheduled more appointments. They had another doctor, this one legitimate, as far as I knew, evaluate me. He was less certain than Dr. Harrison, but he agreed there were some concerns. Lisa noticed something was wrong. She came over one evening and found me sitting in the dark, staring at the pile of legal documents on the dining room table. "Dad, what's all this?" "Your brother thinks I'm losing my mind," I said quietly. She picked up the papers, her nurse's instinct kicking in. "These are conservatorship forms. Dad, did you sign these?" "Not yet, but Michael says I need to. He says I need someone to manage my finances, make medical decisions." "No." Lisa's voice was sharp. "Absolutely not. You're fine. I see patients with dementia every day. You don't have dementia," the doctor said. "Which doctor? Dr. Harrison?" She was flipping through the papers now, her face getting redder. "Dad, do you know who Dr. Harrison is? He's Vanessa's friend. They go to the same country club." That was when I started to see it. The pattern, the manipulation. But I still didn't understand how far they were willing to go. Michael filed the conservatorship petition 3 weeks later. I didn't even know until a court summons arrived in the mail. I called him immediately. "Michael, what is this?" "Dad, we need to do this. You're not thinking clearly. Last week you left the stove on. You could have burned the house down." I had left the stove on once, for 10 minutes, because the phone rang. "It happens. It doesn't mean I'm incompetent. I'm hiring a lawyer," I said. "With what money? Your pension barely covers your expenses. Come on, Dad. Let us help you." I hung up and called every lawyer in Boston I could find. Most were too expensive. A few took one look at the case and told me conservatorships are hard to fight. One finally agreed to help me, a young public defender named James Rodriguez, who took my case pro bono because his grandmother had been through something similar. The court hearing was the worst day of my life, worse than Eleanor's funeral, because at the funeral I was surrounded by people who loved her. In that courtroom, I was surrounded by people trying to erase me. Michael and Vanessa sat at the other table with their high-priced attorney. They had Dr. Harrison. They had the second doctor. They even had witnesses, neighbors who'd seen me wandering around the garden. At odd hours, I was pruning roses at dawn, something I'd done for 30 years. A grocery store clerk who said I'd seemed confused about my credit card. The chip reader was broken. James did his best. He called Lisa, who testified that I was completely lucid, completely capable. But she was a nurse, not a neurologist. The judge seemed more interested in Dr. Harrison's credentials. And then Michael testified. "My own son sat in that witness stand and lied about me. Your Honor, I love my father. But he's declining rapidly. Last month, he didn't recognize my children, his own grandchildren. That was a lie. I'd recognize them just fine. He's left the house in the middle of the night, wandering the neighborhood in his pajamas. Another lie. I'd walked to the corner store at 9 p.m. in my bathrobe to buy milk. That's hardly wandering. He's become paranoid, accusing me and my wife of trying to steal from him." I looked at Vanessa. She had tears in her eyes. Actual tears. She was good. I'll give her that. The judge took 2 days to make his decision. When we came back to court, I knew it was over before he even spoke. "I'm granting the petition for limited conservatorship. Mr. Michael Barrett will have authority over his father's financial affairs and medical decisions. Mr. Thomas Barrett will be evaluated for appropriate living arrangements." I stood up. "Your Honor, I'm not incompetent. I'm not, Mr. Barrett. This is for your own protection. You should be grateful your son cares enough to do this." Grateful. That word haunted me. Within a week, Michael had frozen my bank accounts. He claimed it was to prevent me from being scammed, but really, it was to control me. He scheduled a tour of Shady Oaks, a nursing home 20 miles outside Boston. It was nice, as nursing homes go, but it wasn't home. "Dad, you'll love it here," Michael said, walking me through the sterile hallways. "They have activities, game nights. You'll make friends." "I don't want to make friends. I want to go home." "That house is too much for you. We're putting it on the market next week." My heart stopped. "You can't sell my house." "It's not your house anymore, Dad. Legally, I'm in charge now. And that house is worth $4 million. Do you know what we could do with $4 million? We could invest it, make sure you're comfortable for the rest of your life. It was your mother's house, and now it's an asset. Don't be sentimental. I tried to fight. I called James, but he said there was nothing he could do unless we could prove the conservatorship was granted under false pretenses. We'd need evidence recordings, documents, something showing Michael and Vanessa had lied. I didn't have any of that. Lisa tried too. She hired her own lawyer, filed an objection to the sale of the house. But Michael had Vanessa, and Vanessa was a shark. She buried Lisa in motions and continuances until Lisa ran out of money to fight. 3 months after the conservatorship was granted, they moved me into Shady Oaks. I had 1 suitcase of clothes and a box of photographs. Everything else, Eleanor's paintings, the furniture we'd bought together, 40 years of memories, was packed up for auction. I'd lost everything, my home, my freedom, my dignity, and I'd lost it to my own son. The nursing home was clean, but it was a cage. I had a small room with a window that looked out onto a parking lot. The staff was kind but overworked. The other residents were mostly people with severe dementia or physical disabilities. I didn't belong there, but no one cared. I spent my days sitting in the common room, watching TV I didn't care about, eating food that tasted like cardboard. At night, I'd lie in that narrow bed and think about Eleanor. What would she say if she could see me now? What would she do? And then one night, I remembered something. A conversation Eleanor and I had years ago, right after her parents died and left her the house. She'd been worried about estate taxes, about making sure the house stayed in the family. She'd hired a lawyer, a careful, thorough man named Arthur Pemberton. They'd spent weeks setting up something called a living trust. I'd signed papers. I remembered that. But I'd never really understood what they meant. Eleanor had handled all of that. She'd said, "Tom, I'm making sure no one can ever take this house from us. Not the government, not creditors, not anyone." Had she known? Had she somehow predicted that our own son might try this? I needed to get back to the house. I needed to find those papers. The nursing home wasn't a prison. I could leave if I wanted to. But I had no money, no car, no way to get back to Boston. Michael had made sure of that. Lisa visited every Sunday. The 4th Sunday after I'd been committed, I told her about the trust. "Dad, if there's a trust, Michael can't sell the house. Trusts supersede conservatorships. I don't know where the papers are." Eleanor kept everything in her office, but Michael cleared it out. "Then we have to go back. We have to search the house before the sale goes through." "How?" "Michael has all the keys. He's changed the locks." Lisa smiled. "I still have the spare key from when I used to water Mom's plants. He doesn't know about it. We planned it carefully. The house was scheduled to close in 2 weeks. Michael and Vanessa were planning a celebration dinner that Saturday night. Lisa had heard about it from Michael's kids. They'd be gone for hours. That Saturday, Lisa picked me up from Shady Oaks at 6 p.m., telling the staff we were going to dinner. We drove straight to Beacon Hill. Walking back into that house was like walking into a memory. Everything was still there, but covered in dust and shadows. Michael hadn't moved anything out yet. He was waiting until after the sale. "Where would Mom keep important papers?" Lisa asked. "Her office. The desk, maybe." Or I stopped. "The attic. She had a fireproof box in the attic. Old photos, documents, things from her parents." We climbed the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor. The attic was hot and dusty, filled with boxes and furniture draped in white sheets. It took us 20 minutes to find the fireproof box, hidden behind a stack of Eleanor's old canvases. Inside, I found it. A manila envelope marked Living Trust. 1,965 inches, Eleanor's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were legal documents, old and yellowed, but still legible. The first page said, "Declaration of Trust for the property at 47 Marlborough Street, Boston, Massachusetts." I scanned the pages. Legal language I barely understood, but then I saw the key sections, and my heart started pounding. "Property shall remain in trust for the sole benefit of Thomas Andrew Barrett for the duration of his natural life. Upon his death, property shall transfer in equal shares to Lisa Marie Barrett and Michael James Barrett. Under no circumstances may said property be sold, transferred, or encumbered during Thomas Andrew Barrett's lifetime without his explicit written consent, duly witnessed and notarized." Lisa read over my shoulder. "Dad, this means he can't sell it. Even with conservatorship, the trust protects it." But there was more. Tucked into the envelope was a letter in Eleanor's handwriting, dated 3 days before she died. My dearest Tom, it began. I had to sit down. If you're reading this, it means something has gone wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm just being paranoid in these last days. But I've been thinking about our children, about the people they've become, and I need to tell you something I should have said years ago. I love Michael. He's my son, and I'll always love him. But I don't trust him. I've seen the way he looks at this house, the way he talks about money, the way Vanessa has changed him. He's not the boy we raised, Tom. He's become someone else. That's why I set up the trust the way I did. That's why I made sure this house can never be sold while you're alive. I feared that someday he might try to take it from you. I couldn't let that happen. This house is your home. It's our home. It's where we built our life together, where we raised our children, where we grew old. Don't let anyone take it from you. Don't let anyone make you believe you don't deserve it. And Tom, if Michael has hurt you, if he's betrayed you, know this. I left a second clause in the trust. It's on page 7. Read it carefully. I made sure there would be consequences. I love you. I've loved you for 41 years, and I'll love you beyond death. Be strong. Fight for what's yours. Always, Eleanor. I turned to page 7, with tears streaming down my face. There it was, in black and white. In the event that any beneficiary of this trust attempts to defraud, coerce, or otherwise harm Thomas Andrew Barrett, or attempts to violate the terms of this trust by forcing the sale or transfer of the property during his lifetime, said beneficiary shall be immediately and irrevocably removed from the trust, and shall forfeit all inheritance rights pertaining to this property and any other assets of Eleanor Catherine Barrett. Eleanor had known. She'd known 30 years before it happened that Michael might do this, and she'd protected me. Lisa was crying too. We have to show this to your lawyer. We have to stop the sale. We made copies of everything that night. The next morning, I called James Rodriguez. He nearly jumped through the phone with excitement. Mr. Barrett, this changes everything. The trust is ironclad. Michael never had the authority to sell the house. And with this disinheritance clause, if we can prove he knowingly violated the trust terms, we can prove it. He knew about the trust. Eleanor talked about it at family dinners. He lied to the court when he said I owned the property outright. Then we're filing an emergency motion to stop the sale and dissolve the conservatorship, and we're going after him for fraud. The second court hearing was very different from the first. This time, I had the truth on my side. James presented the trust documents. He presented Eleanor's letter. He called Arthur Pemberton, the lawyer who drafted the trust, now 89 years old, but sharp as ever. Arthur testified that he'd specifically discussed the trust with Michael at Eleanor's funeral, explaining that the house couldn't be sold. He knew, Arthur said firmly. He asked me directly if there was any way around the trust, and I told him no. Michael's lawyer tried to argue that the conservatorship still gave Michael authority over my other assets, but James had done his homework. He'd found the wire transfer $5,000 from Vanessa's account to Dr. Harrison, dated 3 days before my evaluation. He'd found text messages between Michael and Vanessa discussing their plan to get me declared incompetent. The judge was not pleased. Mr. Barrett, he said, looking at Michael, did you or did you not knowingly lie to this court about the ownership status of the property at 47 Marlborough Street? Michael's face went pale. Vanessa whispered something to their lawyer, but there was no way out. I misunderstood the legal structure, Michael stammered. Did you pay Dr. Harrison to provide a false diagnosis of your father? Silence. Answer the question, Mr. Barrett. We asked him to consult. It wasn't. Yes or no? Yes. The courtroom erupted. The judge pounded his gavel. I'm dissolving the conservatorship effective immediately. I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. And I'm issuing a restraining order preventing you from contacting your father or entering the property at 47 Marlborough Street. This hearing is adjourned. I walked out of that courthouse a free man. Within a month, the consequences came down like dominoes. The DA filed criminal charges against Michael and Vanessa, fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit theft. Dr. Harrison lost his medical license. Vanessa was disbarred pending investigation. Michael's real estate company collapsed. Turns out, he'd been using shady financing to fund his lifestyle, and when the criminal charges hit, his investors fled. He lost the house in Brookline. He lost the cars. He lost everything. exactly the way he'd tried to make me lose everything. The irony wasn't lost on me. Lisa helped me move back into the house on Marlborough Street. It took weeks to sort through everything, to put Eleanor's paintings back on the walls, to restore the garden, but slowly, it started to feel like home again. I received a letter from Michael 6 months later. He was living in a rental apartment, working as a realtor for someone else's company. The letter was 4 pages long, an apology, an explanation, excuses about financial pressure, about Vanessa's influence, about his own greed and fear. I read it sitting in Eleanor's sunroom, the morning light coming through the windows exactly the way she loved. Did I forgive him? I don't know. That's the truth. He's still my son. I still love him, the way you can't stop loving your children, even when they hurt you. But trust? That's gone. Maybe forever. I wrote back. A short letter. I told him I appreciated his apology, but that forgiveness would take time. I told him I'd think about letting him meet with me, supervised, after the trial was over. I told him I hoped he'd use this time to think about who he'd become. I didn't send him money. I didn't offer to help him. Those days were over. Lisa and I have dinner every Sunday now, in the dining room where we used to have family meals. Sometimes her kids come. They're good kids. They never ask me for anything except stories about their grandmother. I started a small foundation with some of Eleanor's life insurance money I'd forgotten about. It helps elderly people fight conservatorship abuse. We've helped 12 families so far. It's not much, but it's something. It's what Eleanor would have wanted. And every Sunday morning, I go out to the garden and tend to Eleanor's roses. They're blooming again, climbing the iron fence, exactly the way she wanted them. I'm 67 years old. I lost a year of my life to my son's greed, but I got my home back. I got my freedom back, and I learned something Eleanor knew all along. The people who truly love you protect you, even after they're gone. That envelope in the attic didn't just save my house. It saved me.